Suicide. When one chooses to take the path of taking their own life, what happens to that place after the person is gone? Do certain energies and negative feelings remain? Grab a blanket, turn off your lights, and let's take a look at those places where people have chosen to end it. Suicide haunting. When I was a small child, I remember seeing my grandmother often even after she passed away. These experiences actually led me to develop a fear of being alone and even a worse fear of the dark. Over the years, my fears have subsided, and I haven't really had any problems the last 3 or 4. That all changed July 16th of this year. When I moved to Florida, I quickly befriended a lady 40 years my senior, Leslie. Leslie is a great woman who manages a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. From time to time, she will have my husband Joe and I do odd jobs around the old place. We have become very close to her and would do anything for her. So when she called and asked us to come down, we immediately got in our car and headed towards the motel. She explained that a young man had checked in the day before and that he wouldn't answer the room door. I didn't think much of it, as the guests are known to leave without returning the keys. I left and went to work only to have my husband call me a few hours later, explaining that the young man had ended his life in that motel room. Of course, I felt for that person and his family, but still didn't think much of it. I had never met the man, and I'm not a very emotional person at all. After a few days, the police had cleared the scene so that it could be cleaned up. Leslie couldn't stand to do it, and she didn't have the $500 required to hire a professional crime scene cleaning crew. She reluctantly requested that Joseph and I clean the room for her. I do not like seeing things like that. However, Joe had recently gone laid off, and we could use the $200 she was offering. I figured that it would take only a few hours to do the job, a quick and easy couple $100. I've never been more wrong about something in my life. When we arrived that morning, the air was thick with a sadness. Leslie gave me another chance to back out of our deal, but a deal is a deal, and I decided to proceed. As I approached the dreaded room of 106, something told me to turn around, get back in the car, and get home as fast as I could. I was shaking, getting cold chills, and tears were running down my face. I swallowed my feelings and entered the room. From start to finish, it only took 3 hours to do the job. But it did not end there. A few days afterwards, I was sitting on the couch, searching the internet, when I got the overwhelming feeling that I was being watched. I got up and fixed every curtain in the house. I know there was no way anyone could see me, but the feeling persisted. Before I could even sit back down, I heard someone faintly say, Billy? Stuttering the first letter. I was the only person home at the time. We only have one neighbor, and he was gone as well. It made me so uncomfortable, to the point that I left the house. That night, as I laid down, the feeling was back and much worse. I could hear my smaller dog, a 6-month-old pug, growling, which he seldom does. So I raised up to see what the matter was. And through the glass doors leading into the bathroom, I could see a smoky shadow standing there, inside. I tried to dismiss it, thinking that I was perhaps seeing things. A short time later, I could smell the scent of vanilla cigars. I was disturbed to the point I made my husband walk around the house looking for intruders. I absolutely hate the smell of cigars, so I knew that no one was smoking in my home. The smell was radiating from the bathroom, laundry room area, but nothing was there. And after a while, the scent disappeared and I was able to fall asleep again. For the next few days, there were only little things, like the TV being turned off and on, things being moved, hearing someone mumble in the next room. I have felt something touch the top of my head as I was washing my face. Things that most people would dismiss. Nothing was really bad, except for the feeling of being watched. It was so bad that all my fears all returned tenfold. I couldn't stand to be alone at all. I leave every light in the house on. My husband was to the point that he thought I'd become a schizophrenic, which really hurt because I knew these things were happening to me. Well, that ended today when the biggest thing yet happened. We were sitting on the couch, which is at the back of the living room beside the bedroom door, and behind the rocking chair watching TV. The chair began rocking. Looking around, we see that our 2 dogs are laying beside us. So thinking that the cat had gotten inside of the chair, we walked over to get her out. We soon realized the cat was not there. We were walking back to the couch when the bedroom door opened. Doors sometimes open because of drafts or leveling issues, but this was different. It swung open so fast and hard that we knew someone had thrown it open. As we stood there, startled and confused, the washing machine that sits beside the bathroom door actually unplugged and moved about 5 feet from the wall in front of those doors. It then turned around so that it was facing us at about 180 degrees turn. My husband promptly put the washer back, closed the door, and we left the house. We have only lived in this house for 4 months. Right after moving in, we lost the baby. Shortly after that, I found small child's handprints on the inside windows of my car. But other than that, there were no other ghostly activities. That is, until we cleaned the room 106. Now I'm plagued by strange things. I even have daymares about a man that keeps saying, "I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean it." I believe that the person I see is the same young man that committed suicide. However, I do not know for sure, as I've never actually seen him and cannot find a picture of him anywhere. I don't know what he wants or if he just got attached to us while we were in the room where he chose to end his life. All I know for sure is that this is not over yet. Occurrences in home after suicide. I would greatly appreciate any help you can give. A month ago, my uncle committed suicide in my late grandparents' house that he was sharing with my other uncle. He was alone at the time and hung himself in the hallway of the staircase. When he was found, he was hanging directly in front of the hallway mirror. The mirror had been in the house for over 100 years. It belonged to the people who owned the house before my grandparents. The home itself was built in the mid-1800s. He left no note, though we found a notepad stuffed away with things that said, "I'm going to kill myself," over and over again, and "You're going to kill yourself," over and over again. He never seemed depressed. He was just a bitter person. Since his death, My other uncle, his girlfriend, and their twin babies have been living in the house, and immediately occurrences began. They heard footsteps, banging upstairs, those they thought could be explained. But then, the light in the hallway turned off by itself. The switch itself moved to turn off. When my grandfather was alive, he always turned the light on, and my uncle would always turn it off. So we're assuming this is him. My uncle and his girlfriend also swear someone came in the house. They literally heard the back door close and heard footsteps coming in, but when they went to check, no one was there. Is this really my uncle, or a demon trying to make us believe it's him? The mirror always bothered me, so I asked them to consider getting rid of it, which they did. And the night after is when they had the occurrence of hearing someone coming into the house. We really need help, and I miss how this home used to feel. Now it feels like a negative presence is around, and I just want to know what to do to make this better and make it go away. Just to know what is going on, please help. We are Catholics and are planning to have a priest bless the house, but I still want to know as much as anyone can tell me, or any advice would be greatly appreciated. The suicide. I was a deputy of the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office, and one day, I was approached by two young women I was associated with. They were worried that something bad had happened to their friend, a coworker. He hadn't answered his cell, texts, or communicated with them in days. I felt the young man was a sexual predator and had investigated him before, and was in the process of charging him for previous offenses. I warned each of these girls not to be alone with him, for their own protection, just from the evidence I had gathered. As these girls were telling me, "We will go and find him," I heard a voice, clear as day, say to me, "He's dead. Don't let them go alone." I offered to assist them when my shift was over, thinking the remainder of my evening about this man and what I knew was waiting for me. When we arrived at his apartment, we located the manager, and since I was dressed in my uniform, we had access to the apartment without a warrant. The man had locked it from within and chained the door shut. One of the young girls was with me and had very skinny arms and was able to unlatch the door. The same voice I had heard earlier that evening, I heard again. I ordered that all three stay outside. I entered the apartment with my gun drawn, after clearing each room and calling out his name. Sure enough, he was in his bedroom with the drape closed on his door. It was a very small apartment, and his bedroom was a closet. I called his name several times. For some reason, I thought that he would answer, knowing all too well, though, that he was dead. I saw the bullet wound, the gun in his hand, and blood on the pillow, but that didn't seem to matter. The thing that hit me next was what I saw. As I was talking to myself, or the dead kid, I said, and here I have to change his name, "Tom, what the hell did you go and do?" The next thing I saw is the man standing at the foot of his bed, looking down at his body. I didn't say another word. I just watched him, and he was oblivious to me. He just stood there, as if he were in shock. I just watched him until the spirit left. That same week, I was sleeping in my home and had a visitor. Something slapped me on my wrist, and I shot up from a deep sleep. I looked at the foot of my bed, and there was a dark figure standing. I was preparing my report on this man, and it appeared that he didn't want the world to know what kind of an animal he was. I felt violated, like some citizens tell me, Home invasion. As a deputy, I have seen quite a bit, and I have a gift for seeing the dead. This wasn't the first time I've had such an encounter, but it's a story I want the reader to get a feel for me. I also wrote a book about a facility I worked at that was haunted. It took 3 years to complete. It's a compilation of stories from other officers who worked the building I was in, and I'm in the process of finding a publisher. But this one story is about Tom. That's one of a few encounters I've had as a deputy and civilian over the years, and I'm sure it won't be my last. Thanks